In a time long before our calendars, around 2,000 years before the Common Era, lived a man named James. He was not a king, he was not a warrior. James was a preacher. His heart was kind, and his words were gentle. He lived among his people in a fertile valley, nestled between rolling hills and a life-giving river. His community was simple. They farmed the land and raised their animals. They looked to James for guidance. He spoke of kindness to one another and taught about respect for nature. He believed in the goodness within every soul. James was known far and wide for his gentle nature. People from nearby villages would travel to hear him speak. He never asked for riches, nor did he seek power. His only wish was for people to live in peace. He would often sit under a large banyan tree. Children would gather around him. He told them stories, and these stories were not just tales. They held lessons about life. He taught them that every creature, big or small, had a purpose. He explained that the sun, the moon, and the stars all moved in a grand, cosmic dance. His life was a testament to his teachings. He shared whatever little he had, comforted those in sorrow, and celebrated with those in joy. His days were spent in service to his community. He helped resolve disputes with fairness, guided young couples starting their lives together, and was present at births, offering blessings. He was there at deaths, offering solace. James believed that understanding the world around them was important. He encouraged people to observe the seasons and urged them to learn from the flowing river and the steadfast mountains. He felt a deep connection to the earth. He saw divinity in every leaf and every stone. This connection gave him a profound sense of peace, and this peace radiated from him, touching everyone he met. The people loved James deeply. They saw him as a beacon of hope. In a world where life could be harsh and unpredictable, James offered a sense of stability. He taught them that even in darkness there is always light. He encouraged them to look for that light within themselves and in others. His village was a haven of tranquility, largely due to his calming presence and wise counsel. James himself was a humble student of life. He was always learning, always observing, and always seeking deeper understanding. Little did he know a great discovery awaited him. This discovery would change his life and the destiny of his people forever. One sweltering afternoon, James sought shelter from the sun. He wandered into an old, forgotten cave. This cave was at the foothills of the mountains that bordered their valley. It was a place few dared to venture. Legends spoke of ancient spirits residing there. But James felt no fear. He felt a strange pull towards the cave. It was as if an unseen force was guiding his steps. The air inside was cool and still. Dust motes danced in the faint shafts of light that pierced the darkness. He walked deeper into the cavern. His eyes slowly adjusted to the dim light. He noticed something unusual. There, in a small alcove, lay a stone chest. It was covered in intricate carvings. These carvings were unlike anything he had ever seen before. They depicted celestial beings and strange symbols. Curiosity overcame him. He carefully approached the chest. It was heavy, but with some effort, he managed to lift the stone lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded silk, was a scroll. It was made of a material he did not recognize. It was not papyrus, nor was it animal skin. It felt ancient, yet strangely preserved. The scroll was bound with a simple leather thong. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for it. He gently untied the thong and unrolled the scroll. The script was also unfamiliar. It was elegant and flowing. Yet, as he looked at the symbols, a strange thing happened. He began to understand them. It was not like reading words he knew. It was more like the meaning flowed directly into his mind. The scroll was titled Bhavisya Darshana Part 1. This meant Vision of the Future, First Part. James sat down on the cool cave floor. He began to read, or rather, he began to absorb the knowledge held within. He was completely engrossed. Hours passed like minutes. The Bhavisya Darshana was no ordinary text. It spoke of the deepest truths of existence. It described the nature of the universe. It detailed the path to spiritual enlightenment. It contained advanced knowledge of science. It even foretold events that were yet to come. James was astounded. The wisdom in the scroll was profound. It resonated with his own deepest intuitions. Yet it went far beyond anything he had ever imagined. He knew with absolute certainty that he had stumbled upon something sacred. This was a gift from a time long past, or perhaps from a source beyond time itself. This scroll would change everything. The Bhavishya Darshana. Part 1 was a revelation. It explained that the universe was not just random, it operated on precise laws. These laws governed everything, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy. The scroll described what we might call energy. It called it prana or shakti. This energy was the basis of all creation. It flowed through all living beings. It connected everything. The book taught that understanding and harmonizing with this energy was key to a fulfilling life. It explained how thoughts and emotions could influence this energy. Positive thoughts could heal, while negative thoughts could harm. This was a powerful science of the mind. The scroll spoke of spiritual enlightenment. It described it not as a distant dream but as an achievable state. It was about realizing one's true self. This true self was beyond the body and mind. It was pure consciousness, eternal and boundless. The book laid out practices to reach this state. These included meditation and self-reflection. It also emphasized selfless action, or karma yoga. This meant performing one's duties without attachment to the results. Such actions purified the mind. They prepared the individual for deeper understanding. James saw the beauty in this. It was a practical path to inner peace and wisdom. Amazingly, the Bhavishya Darshana also contained scientific knowledge. This knowledge was far ahead of its time. It described the stars and planets with great accuracy. It spoke of the cyclical nature of time. It even hinted at the existence of other worlds and dimensions. James was particularly struck by its understanding of the human body. It detailed energy centers, or chakras. These chakras influenced physical and mental well-being. The book provided methods to balance these centers. This led to health and vitality. It was a holistic view of life. Mind, body, and spirit were interconnected. Finally, there were the prophecies. The scroll foretold future events. Some were about the changing seasons and natural cycles. Others spoke of great shifts in human consciousness. It predicted periods of harmony and periods of strife. James read these with a mix of awe and trepidation. The knowledge was immense. It was also a great responsibility. He understood that this book was not meant for him alone. Its wisdom was meant to be shared. It held the potential to transform his people. It could guide them towards a brighter future. He knew his life's purpose had just become much clearer. He had to share these teachings. James returned to his village. He carried the Bhavishya Darshana with utmost care. He began to share its teachings. He did not preach them as rigid doctrines. Instead, he wove them into his stories and his daily interactions. He spoke of the interconnectedness of all things, as taught in the scroll. He explained the concept of prana. He showed people how to become more aware of this life energy. He introduced simple meditation techniques. He encouraged people to practice mindfulness in their daily tasks. Whether farming or crafting, they could do it with full attention. This brought a new sense of purpose to their work. The impact was gradual but profound. People began to live more harmoniously. Disputes became rare. The teachings on selfless action led to greater cooperation. Villagers helped each other without expecting anything in return. They started to understand that their individual well-being was tied to the well-being of the community. The scientific knowledge from the scroll also brought benefits. They learned better farming techniques. These were based on understanding natural cycles. Their harvests became more abundant. They learned about herbal remedies described in the book. This improved their health. The village thrived like never before. The spiritual practices brought inner peace. People became less fearful. They were less anxious about the future. They found joy in simple things. The teachings on chakras helped them understand their emotions better. They learned to manage their anger and cultivate compassion. Children grew up in an atmosphere of love and understanding. They were taught to respect their elders. They were also encouraged to question and learn. The Bhavishya Darshana did not demand blind faith. It encouraged inquiry and direct experience. This created a vibrant, intellectually curious society. It was a perfect civilization in its own way. This era became known as a golden age for James's people. There was peace, prosperity, and wisdom. The teachings of the Babisha Darshana were the foundation of their lives. They built beautiful gardens. They created art that reflected their understanding of the cosmos. Their music was soothing and uplifting. They lived in deep respect for nature. They took only what they needed. They ensured that the land remained fertile for future generations. James watched all this with a grateful heart. The ancient scroll had indeed been a divine gift. He continued to study it. He knew there was still much more to learn. Section 5. A Call from Afar. The Vision of India. Years passed in this idyllic state. James grew older, his wisdom deepening with time. He had shared much of Babisha Darshana Part 1. Yet he felt there were layers of meaning he had not yet grasped. The scroll often hinted at further knowledge. It mentioned Part 2 and even Part 3. But these were not with him. One evening, as James was in deep meditation, he had a powerful vision. In his mind's eye, he saw a vast land. It was a land of ancient mountains and sacred rivers. He saw scholars and sages. They were engrossed in study and contemplation. He recognized this land as India. In the vision, a gentle voice spoke to him. The voice seemed to emanate from the very fabric of existence. It told him that the Babisha Darshana had its origins in India. It said that to fully understand its depths and to perhaps find its missing parts, he must travel there. The voice guided him. It showed him a great center of learning. This place was called Nalanda. There he would find masters who could illuminate the scroll's deepest secrets. They could also teach him about other scriptures. These scriptures held complementary wisdom. The vision was vivid and compelling. James knew it was not a mere dream. When he emerged from his meditation, his heart was filled with a new resolve. He knew he had to undertake this journey. It would be long and arduous. He would have to leave his beloved people. He would have to leave the peaceful civilization he had helped build. The thought pained him, but the call of wisdom was too strong to ignore. He gathered the elders of his community. He told them about his vision. He explained his need to travel to India. They listened with respect. They were saddened by the thought of his departure, but they understood his quest for deeper knowledge. They knew it was important. His people offered their full support. They promised to uphold the teachings of the Babisha Darshana. They would continue to live in harmony. They selected wise individuals to guide the community in his absence. Preparations began for his long journey. It was a bittersweet time. There was sadness at his leaving. There was also excitement for the knowledge he might bring back. James spent his remaining days ensuring the community was well prepared. He imparted final words of wisdom. He blessed them all. He felt a profound love for his people, but he knew his path now led eastward towards the ancient land of India. Section 6. The Long Walk to Wisdom. Journey to Nalanda. The day of James's departure arrived. The entire village gathered to bid him farewell. There were tears in many eyes, but there was also hope. James carried with him a copy of Babisha Darshana Part 1. He also carried the blessings of his people. His journey was to be on foot. It would take him across vast plains, over rugged mountains, and through dense forests. He was not a young man anymore, but his spirit was strong. His determination was unwavering. He set out at dawn. The rising sun cast a golden glow on his path. He looked back once at his peaceful valley. Then he turned his face towards the east. The journey was fraught with challenges. He faced scorching heat and biting cold. He encountered wild animals and unfamiliar terrains. Sometimes he traveled with merchant caravans for safety. At other times, he walked alone. He met many different people along the way. He learned about their customs and beliefs. He shared his own wisdom when asked. He never preached forcefully. He simply lived by the principles of kindness and understanding. Many were touched by his gentle demeanor and profound insights. He subsisted on simple food. He often slept under the stars. The journey itself became a form of meditation. It was a test of his endurance and faith. He crossed mighty rivers. He navigated treacherous mountain passes. He saw lands ravaged by conflict. He also saw communities living in peace, much like his own. These experiences broadened his understanding of humanity. He saw the same struggles, the same aspirations, in different faces and different cultures. The teachings of the Babhishya Darshana about universal truths became even more real to him. He realized that the quest for peace and enlightenment was a common human endeavor. It transcended geographical boundaries. It transcended cultural differences. It was a journey for every soul. After many months, perhaps even years of travel, he finally reached the plains of India. The air felt different here. There was a palpable sense of ancient wisdom. He saw temples of incredible beauty. He heard chants and hymns that resonated deep within him. He inquired about Nalanda. People spoke of it with reverence. They called it a Mahavihara, a great center of learning. They told him it attracted scholars from all over the known world. His heart quickened with anticipation. He was close. The final leg of his journey was filled with renewed energy. He was about to reach the place he had seen in his vision. Section 7. Echoes of Eternity. Learning at Nalanda's Heart. James finally arrived at Nalanda. It was more magnificent than he had imagined. Vast courtyards, towering stupas, and rows of monastic cells stretched before him. Thousands of scholars and students moved about. There was an atmosphere of intense intellectual activity. Yet, there was also a profound sense of peace. He presented himself to the gatekeepers. He spoke of his journey and his quest for knowledge. He showed them his copy of Babhishya Darshana Part 1. The scholars at Nalanda were amazed. They recognized the ancient script. They knew of legends about such a book, but few had ever seen it. James was welcomed into Nalanda. He became a student, despite his age and wisdom. He learned from many great masters. He studied various schools of philosophy. He delved into logic, grammar, medicine, and astronomy. He learned Sanskrit, the ancient language of many Indian scriptures. This allowed him to study texts that complemented the Babhishya Darshana. He found that many of the concepts in his scroll were also present in Hindu scriptures like the Vedas and Upanishads. They were expressed in different ways, with different stories and symbols, but the underlying truths were the same. The concept of Brahman, the ultimate reality, resonated with the scroll's description of pure consciousness. The cycles of creation and destruction, yugas, mirrored the prophecies he had read. One day, an elderly acharya, a revered teacher, took a special interest in James and his scroll. This acharya was a master of ancient texts and esoteric knowledge. He told James that the Babhishya Darshana was believed to have been authored by a great rishi. This rishi lived in a time far more ancient than even 2000 BC. This rishi was said to have mastered not only spiritual sciences, but also the science of time itself. Legend had it that this rishi could perceive the past, present, and future. He could even travel through time. The acharya explained that such abilities were not magic. They were the result of profound understanding of cosmic laws and intense yogic discipline. This knowledge was considered the highest science. James was astonished. A time-traveling rishi. This explained the incredible foresight of the Babhishya Darshana. It explained its advanced scientific knowledge. The acharya then revealed something even more startling. He said that parts of the rishi's teachings, including possibly Babhishya Darshana Part 2 and 3, were not written down in easily accessible scrolls. They were encoded within certain meditative practices. They were also preserved in oral traditions, passed down through a lineage of masters. Some of these masters resided in remote Himalayan hermitages. The acharya sensed a great destiny for James. He believed James was meant to uncover more of this ancient wisdom. He advised James to seek these Himalayan masters. Section 8. The Looming Darkness, a Prophecy of Peril. While studying at Nalanda, James revisited the prophecies in Babhishya Darshana Part 1. He now read them with a deeper understanding, aided by his studies of cyclical time in Hindu cosmology. One particular prophecy troubled him greatly. It spoke of a future period of immense darkness for his own people. It predicted that many generations after his departure, a powerful being would arise. This being was described as the son of a demon or Asura Putra. This was not necessarily a literal demon. It could mean a leader driven by ego, greed, and a desire for destructive power. This leader would corrupt the harmonious society James had helped build. The prophecy detailed how this Asura Putra would twist the teachings of wisdom. He would use them for selfish gain. He would sow discord and fear. The peace and enlightenment James's people had achieved would be threatened. Their civilization, once a beacon of light, would face ruin. The scroll foretold great suffering. It spoke of a loss of knowledge and a return to ignorance. James felt a deep pain in his heart. He had worked so hard to bring light to his people. The thought of it all being undone was unbearable. He felt a profound responsibility. He could not stand by and let this happen. He discussed this prophecy with the wise Acharya at Nalanda. The Acharya listened patiently. He confirmed that such cycles of rise and fall, of Dharma and Adharma, were part of cosmic rhythm. He explained that even in the darkest of times, there is always a potential for renewal. He reminded James of the concept of avatars or divine incarnations. These beings appear when Dharma is in great decline to restore balance. But the Acharya also spoke of human agency. He said that individuals with great resolve and purity of intent could also play a role in averting calamities. Or at least, they could mitigate the suffering. James's resolve hardened. He could not simply return to his people and warn them. The prophecy was set far in the future. They might not believe him, or they might forget over generations. He needed a more direct way to intervene. The Acharya's words about the time-traveling Rishi echoed in his mind. If the Rishi could author a book that transcended time, perhaps it was possible to travel through time as well. The thought was audacious. It seemed impossible. But the Bhavishya Darshana itself was proof of extraordinary possibilities. James decided he must learn the secrets of time travel. He would go back, or rather forward, to that future time. He would confront this threat and try to save his people. Section 9. Mastering Time's River, the Himalayan Trials. With the Acharya's blessings and guidance, James embarked on a new journey. This journey led him north, towards the towering peaks of the Himalayas. These mountains were considered the abode of sages and mystics. Here, in remote caves and hidden ashrams, lived masters who preserved the deepest secrets of yoga and tantra. These were the sciences of consciousness. They held the key to abilities that transcended ordinary human limitations. James sought out these Himalayan masters. He knew his training would be even more rigorous than his studies at Nalanda. He was prepared to dedicate his life to this new purpose. The Himalayan masters were reclusive. They did not easily accept disciples, but they saw the purity of James's heart. They sensed the urgency of his mission. They recognized the authenticity of the Bhavishya Darshana he carried. They agreed to teach him. His training was intense. It involved long hours of meditation in freezing conditions. He practiced complex pranayama techniques. These were breathing exercises designed to control the life force, prana. He learned to purify his mind and body completely. He studied the subtle energies of the universe. He learned how consciousness could interact with the fabric of space and time. From a scientific perspective, this was akin to understanding quantum fields or higher dimensions, but through inner experience. The masters taught him that time was not a simple linear flow, as most perceived it. It was more like a river with many currents and eddies, or perhaps a vast ocean. With sufficient mastery over one's own consciousness and vital energies, one could learn to navigate this river. This was not about building a machine. It was about transforming oneself into a being capable of perceiving and moving through different temporal streams. This required immense concentration, unwavering focus, and a complete detachment from the ego. James dedicated himself to these practices. He learned to enter deep states of samadhi, or meditative absorption. In these states, the ordinary perception of time dissolved. Years passed in this arduous training. James's body became lean and strong. His mind became sharp and luminous. He felt a profound connection to the cosmos. He began to experience glimpses of the past and future. He learned to stabilize these perceptions. The masters guided him. They taught him the ethical considerations of such power. They warned him about the dangers of interfering with the natural flow of events, but they also understood the imperative of his mission. Finally, the day came when his masters deemed him ready. James had mastered the esoteric science. He had learned the techniques to project his consciousness through time. He was ready to attempt the journey to save his people. His ancient quest was about to enter its most critical phase.